wake up to find yourself in a dark box that you have zero idea how you got into and no clue where to even begin to look for an escape. Before you know it, are so depleted, so empty, so hopeless and helpless that you give up trying to look for a way out and eventually start giving up on everything altogether. So I wanted to share my story in hopes to bring maybe a little inspiration to those of you who still feel stuck in the relationship with a narcissist, because if I can make it out of that box, then you better bet your ass that you can too. As I am not Superwoman, not a robot, nor am I any wiser or any stronger than any of you. There are still plenty of days where something will trigger off my Cptsd or some random thought will come up, get me thinking about my past. But even on the worst days, it still beats the shit out of living my life with a narcissist. Hands down. So I don't want to focus on what went wrong in the relationship, but rather my rise back up. I think a little sneak peek into my past will aid in doing so. So here we go. I was in a very emotionally, verbally, and occasionally physically abusive relationship for almost 2 decades. A few years into the relationship, I started to self-medicate and numb the pain with alcohol. And before you know it, it had taken hold and care of me to where every night before I would go to bed, I would swear that I was never going to do this again and didn't want to live like this, only to wake up the next day and just the thought of having to intervene with him became to what I thought at the time was a necessity. And there I was at 9 a.m. preparing for my daily interactions. Thankfully, a little over 6 years ago, I decided to listen to my late night self and made a phone call to Serenity Acres and admit myself into a 30-day rehab for alcohol. And to this day, honest to God, was one of the best decisions that I've ever made for myself, as well as experiences that I've ever had in my life, which sounds a little bit odd, I know, but it truly opened my eyes and for the first time in probably forever, allowed me to look at me and view what I thought the best version of me would look like or could look like in the lens of my own perspective, rather than trying to be the best me in efforts to meet somebody else's expectations of what they wanted me to become. Upon my departure, my counselors, who had gotten to know and had some firsthand dealings with my now ex-husband, suggested that I not return back home to him, as they feared that if I did, that I would, 1, either end up dead, or 2, right back in rehab. But, well, my trauma-bonded mind had its opinion of its own and was determined that I was going to fix everything, him, me, and the marriage. So off I went back home, which was okay at first. But, well, it wasn't long before the shoe dropped, as it always did, and this time with a much louder thud, because I was adamant about not failing and truly wanting to become the best version of me that I thought I could be. And as such, I was firm with the boundaries that I was lacking in before. And, well, doesn't exactly bode well with a narcissist. And as such, when our relationship took its vast turn for the worse, which only enhanced this fear that I had growing at a pretty great as it was about being able to survive on my own, so deeply instilled into me, not only that I couldn't survive without him, but that I wouldn't survive without him. I never even really gave much thought to, as I mean, shit, I couldn't even go to the bathroom by myself without checking in or informing him of my every move, and had, I guess, figured I'd be checking in for the rest of my life. So now with this fear overhead, I realized that in order to nip it in the butt, I probably needed to learn a thing or two. So I started fixing some things up around the house, taught myself a little bit of electrical work, replaced all of the overhead lightings, ceiling fans, dabbled a little bit into plumbing, learning where all the shutoff valves were, replacing faucets in the house, installed a new toilet. Then I decided to replace all of the flooring in my lower level of my house and custom made trim and crown molding. Then got into refurbishing furniture, learned how to do some upholstery, which led to making picture frames and then mirrors and custom signs. And before you know it, I'm making farm tables and benches and birdhouses and custom furniture and selling my things out of my parents' boutique. Somewhere along the line, not only realized I had this underlying talent and passion, but that it was also, in essence, like my recovery. Not only was I transforming and restoring their life and beauty, but I was at the same time restoring and bringing new life to myself. I was building a new me, and I cannot stress enough over the sense of accomplishment that you get from doing something with your own two hands and doing it to prove it to nobody else but yourself that you can. There's nothing else like it. And by the time I was done renovating the house and had a couple of pieces of furniture under my belt, not only was I confident that I could survive on my own, but I was actually excited to get the chance to be able to do so. And after living apart now from the man who had convinced me at one point that I wouldn't be able to survive without, not only was he very much mistaken, but that I am so fucking grateful to have given myself the chance to do so, because my world is a totally different place without him in it. Now, that's not to say that it's all peaches and cream and there aren't hurdles, challenges, or rough spots to overcome. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you. There are, because, well, it's life. But these rough spots and hurdles are a whole lot easier when you don't have somebody trying to take you out by the kneecaps, push or tell you you can't survive on your own because we push you underwater and then stand there and watch you drown. So don't let anybody drag you down or I am living wildly, and like I said before, capable I can of doing anything that we put our hearts, souls, and minds into. You can't save them, but you absolutely can save you. Fight for that person staring back at you in the mirror, because they are the most important person you will ever meet in your entire life, and they need you. Remember, focus on you. Fuck the narcissist.